Welcome to BD4, an RJ Carbone podcast. BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. BD4 is a 5-star show on Apple Podcasts, also available in video format on YouTube and Spotify. So thanks for stopping by, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Champion of the world, turning, looking, see ya!
Anthony for three, bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied!
Time!
Penetrates, creates, and showing some dexterity as well with the left hand.
Yankees win!
All right. Quick episode because the Knicks suck. So it's going to be very quick. We're going to get right to the point. I do want to kind of try to mix it up and shake things up here at the top. And I want to mention that last night's episode of Last of Us was good. You know, episode 2 of The Last of Us was very good. But welcome to the podcast. Welcome to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA, Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. But yeah, I'm not going to waste time. I do want to talk about Last of Us, so if you're not interested in my bullshit TV reviews, skip ahead about, 5-10 minutes. It'll be in the timestamps in the description of this episode. But 469 here, episode 469 of the podcast. But I want to talk about episode 2 of The Last of Us, real briefly, not too long. But I am really, really, really digging this show. While the Knicks are giving me, a 1-star show, The Last of Us, if I were to review each episode so far, they both... And I'm a tough grader. 4 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5. Very good. Near perfect. And I like how it's 1 episode per week. It's every Sunday at 9 p.m. That's perfect. It's just like The Walking Dead was. Literally replacing The Walking Dead at the perfect time that comes to a conclusion, which I never finished, and I might have to. But this show's been great. Episode 2 starts out with another cold open. This time we're back in 2003 again, but we're in some place in Indonesia, like right before the breakout of this infection, where some scientist lady who studies specifically this fungus, it was called like Marcota, MYRC something. She studies this fungus, and some officer comes and gets her. She's brought in to examine this dead body, one of the first infected people. So she examines the corpse. She opens up the corpse's mouth, and then, she sees that spaghetti shit that starts coming out again, right? Whatever it is. Spores. And, she's examining it, and then it freaks her out. She leaves the room. And the chilling part is that when she goes to talk about what she saw when examining the body, when she talks about it with the officer, she's straight up with it. And she says there is no treatment, no cure, no medication, no vaccine. The only thing left to do is bomb. Bomb this city. All the families, everybody. And she says it straight up and cold like that. He asks her, what the heck we gonna do? She says one word. She goes, bomb. And she goes, bomb the city, bomb this. And it's just chilling. Because you have to have, it's one of those things, you have to have no hope for humanity in order to deal with this. So then, she starts breaking down, crying. She asks to go visit her family one last time because she knows that the world is about to not change but end. Right? So it's a crazy open. And then they take us into the intro. Kind of, I forgot to mention it last week, but it's like a Game of Thrones-y type of animation. And they have the Last of Us theme music from the video game, which again, I don't remember playing. I played a little bit of it in 2013, but I didn't get very far, and I just don't remember. But so we're back in present-day Boston after the intro, where the three of them, Pedro Pascal's character, Joel, his significant other, I believe, Tess, and then the kid, right, the Game of Thrones girl. They're on their journey to get her, Ellie, that's her name, to the fireplace, right, to those people, so they can see what's up and see if they can find a cure and all that. So they're on their way there, and she's really funny too. She's a great actor. She does a really good job bringing humor to a very dark show. I love the casting for her. But anyways, we're journeying with. I like how we're going on these specific travels through the city with them too. They're not just cutting to a different scene when they're at where they need to be. We're going with them the entire way. And during this journey, we learn a few different things. How these zombies, clickers, the runners, they're all connected. The infected, they're all connected through that vine on the ground that you see growing everywhere. That vegetation that's all So you can see. You learn that. You can see that there are different types of infected, clickers, runners. It's crazy. So, we go to a museum, a hotel, a church, and, the way they use sound in this episode is great. Because there are a lot of, silent moments. So the smallest, most subtle noise will have you on the edge of your seat, like that frog when it was hopping on the piano. Eventually, you get your first action scene with the clickers. That noise they make is very creepy. It's like a clicking, and you hear shrieking sounds in the background. And I think they said some of them, one of the things you learned is certain ones can't see, but they can only hear. It's like sonar. It kind of reminds me of that movie with Emily Blunt and the dude from The Office. Both of them are very good too. There's two of them. I'm drawing a blank, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Damn. But you know that movie. I'm sure many people have. It's very good. But so they eventually get noticed by one of the stalking clickers, and it's a very action-packed scene. It's hard to kill them, it seems like, but they get through it. However, at the very end of the episode, we learn that Tess got infected during that scene. So eventually, Tess, she sacrifices herself in that bizarre, mouth-to-mouth, kiss of death type of scene just to help them escape and keep going. And it's crazy. So apparently in the video game, that's not how she dies. So they changed it up there, and I like that. I like that a lot. But it's great, man. It was a great episode. I love the acting. The production of it is very good. HBO obviously has a tremendous budget where they're not just hovering in one spot the entire episode. They have the money so where they can have these different types of sets, and it's crazy. So it was I like it. I love the storyline. It's good. It was a good second episode, and those are usually very difficult to do after a series premiere. So, and I'm excited to keep going, man. I am. I'm starting to get that. I'm starting to feel it. That apocalypse feeling, that real lonely, very quiet, oddly cozy type of like feeling that you got in early seasons of The Walking Dead. So I'm really excited to see where this goes. But that's The Last of Us. And I'm not ashamed to say that I love what I'm seeing so far in The Last of Us. However, I'm kind of ashamed to say I've been watching clips on Instagram. I haven't seen the episodes themselves yet of Dana White's power slap. It's so stupid. It's so ridiculous. And probably it's like we're cheering on CTE here. But like, and it's funny because these idiots call themselves athletes and they're going up there and they're spanking men. But I don't know why, man. It's one of those things where it's so bizarre and ridiculous. I'm kind of into it. And I'm watching Instagram clips of it because the UFC is doing nothing but promoting it. And I follow the UFC. And I'm really into it. These guys get cocky. And like, I just love the absurdity, man. It's so weird. And it's like my guilty pleasure as a sports fan is that I watch men spank each other. I don't know why I'm watching. I haven't watched, again, like the actual episode. I haven't turned on my TV and watched, but I'm seeing a lot of the different clips on Instagram, and I'm definitely watching them. I'm checking it out, and I'm not hating it, as crazy as it is, and I think it's like that with a lot of other people too. But yeah, power slap. So stupid. All right, let's talk Knicks. Let's get to our first break. When we get back, we'll talk about this Knicks team, which, yeah. Hey, guys, so if you are a listener of the podcast often and you want to know where to find me on social media, you can find me on Facebook at BD4. You can find me on Twitter at BD4Pod. And you can also find me on Instagram at Rob J. Carbone. All right, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone, and you are listening to episode 469 of the podcast. Welcome to BD4. Here we go. And here it comes. Like, the wave is starting to crash. It was building up for a while, now it's starting to come down. That's now 4 losses in a row after 4 wins in a row, and then we've done this multiple times. You know, remember that whole 700 since December episode we did just last week? Yeah. But as I say, regression always finds a way, man. I really am one big believer in regression to the mean. I do. I believe in that, whatever you want to call it, theory, more and more each day when I watch sports. I remember when the Yankees were on top of the world in like mid-June or July of last summer. They were killing it, right? They were on pace for 125 wins at the time. But right then, they faced like the Astros, and from there, it was never exactly the same. And that was like the baseball gods, whatever you want to call it, saying, nope, you're not a 125 win team. You are who you've been for the last several seasons. You're a 90 to 100 win team. Right? I really feel like baseball knows when you're starting to get into unrealistic territory. Sports knows that. Sports know when you're getting into unrealistic territory. Right? It's almost impossible to win 130 games. So baseball said, all right, let's push the Yankees back to their mean. It's the same thing right now with the Knicks, you know? They got real hot, and they will get real hot, I'm sure, some more. They'll look real good, but at the end of the day, it's probably going to wind back down to the Knicks just being this dead-even team. A 500 team will be a 500 team, right? And now here they sit at the moment at a very mediocre 25-23 with the number 7 next to their name. Literally everything I expected, right? I've said it all year. This is who they are. And yesterday in particular was just ugly. Last night it was ugly. Just an ugly basketball game in Toronto. Obviously without Mitchell Robinson, without Emmanuel Quickly, but not an excuse. The Knicks just with putrid play from the start. It was such a bad start. It was such a bad finish. And somewhere sandwiched in between was enough, and emphasis on enough, competitive basketball to make this a close one. But in the end, the Knicks lose 125-116 to the Raptors in Toronto. And they finish 1-3 against the Raptors this year. And probably something like 3-30 something over the last several seasons against these guys because they never beat them. In the first quarter last night, the Knicks turned it over 7 times. They allow 7 3-pointers to fall. They allow 7 2-pointers to drop in. In the second quarter, they make it competitive. The bench unit plays well. In the third quarter, same thing. It's competitive. The starters are out there doing damage. They get hot. Then the Knicks enter the fourth tied. But the second unit slows down early in the period. And all of a sudden, it's a double-digit deficit. And the Knicks lose. So, we'll talk about it. I've got my thoughts, of course. And let's get right into this one, man. Because it wasn't pretty. One of the first things I think we need to bring up was that the Knicks committed 16 turnovers last night. And that's a pretty bad number, but it makes it worse when you look at Toronto and they commit just 7 turnovers that night. And they had 12 steals too. In the first quarter was where a chunk of those turnovers came from. It was vile. And Randle, just New York sewer trash in the opening frame. Just abysmal basketball from him. He loses a rebound in traffic in the opening minutes, which was a bad omen for this game. Does his signature midair jump pass out of a double team that goes awry. He loses control trying to play point guard going up court with Brunson right next to him on another possession. And then towards the end of the period, in like the final minute or something, he gets trapped up top and gets called for an elbow for his 4th turnover of the opening quarter. It was so ugly to watch. And I think with Randle, he's a guy who is prone to giving you 3-4 turnovers on average. We need to try giving him the ball. We need to give it to him closer to the basket, man. To me, there's no sense in feeding him way up, at the top of the key. When, time after time, he shows you he's unable to handle the ball out there when those doubles start coming. When they start blitzing the ball, Randle struggles. He'll struggle to make those quicker reads sometimes, and I think a lot of the times he'll hold on to it so long because he's trying to make that assist, right? And that home run play. Instead of looking for the assist or whatever he's trying to do when he's holding on to the ball in these doubles, sometimes maybe just get rid of it and get it to the closest open option, right? You don't have to look for the guaranteed 2-3 points right away. Sometimes just give it to the next guy and let him generate the offense. But those skip passes where he's jumping midair are just super unnecessary. And it was such a difficult watch. I think that was like his 2nd turnover of the game. He just jumps midair and he throws it cross court. And it's like, what are we doing? And we see it often with him, man. It's frustrating. And I know he's had a good year. But that doesn't mean he's been perfect. That doesn't mean he's immune to getting criticized when he does stupid shit. And it was others, too, in the first quarter. There were other horrendous plays. Grimes is stepping out of bounds, trying to attack a closeout. R.J. Barrett does a spin move down the middle. The ball bounces away. He coughs it up. I counted 6, maybe 7 turnovers in the first quarter alone. It was just atrocious basketball, atrocious from the Knicks, atrocious from Randle. Overall in the night, Randle finished with 4 turnovers, Brunson 3, Barrett 3, Fournier 2, Deuce McBride 2. Way too many. When you play a team like the Toronto Raptors, who have now dropped 120 points or more in 6 of their last 8 games, you got to be careful giving them the ball so much. They like playing the transition game. The Raptors, as we say all the time, are a very lengthy team. They're long. That is what makes them such a tough matchup for the Knicks. They make deflections. They disrupt the passing lanes very well. They got a few good rebounders. I looked into the numbers for the hell of it. The Knicks made 10 deflections last night. The Raptors made 26 of them. And that's not me criticizing the Knicks' effort. That's just me saying the Knicks were sloppy offensively. 26 deflections. 16 more. So, yeah, the turnovers were the very first thing that I wanted to bring up in this one. The Knicks, again, with 16 in the game. The Raptors with 7. So, less than half. Yeah, if these two teams meet in the play-in tournament, anything's possible. Sometimes the playoffs can be completely different than the regular season, but just looking at the matchup, the Knicks could be toast. Especially if the Knicks are the 9-10 and not the 7-8. If they're the 7-8, they don't have to win 2 in a row. If they're the 9-10 and they're playing Toronto, they're absolutely toast. It's tough. So I thought turnovers were the first key reason, and I promise I'm not going to go long in this episode. I just want to list a few reasons as to why we lost, and then we're going to get through it from there. That'll be that. But I also thought we were bad defensively, and I'll talk about that a little more when we get back from break. Stay with us. Episode 469 of BD4. Be right back. BD4 is located on many different platforms. You can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, and if you do there, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and review. You can listen to it on Spotify, but you can also watch the podcast on both Spotify and YouTube. BD4 is available on many other platforms as well. All you got to do is search it up. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and much more. All right, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to episode 469 of BD4. Appreciate you stopping by. So, no Mitchell Robinson hurt the Knicks once again. Again, these people that tell you Mitch is useless because he doesn't average a ton of points, they're out of their minds. They're stuck on the internet. They're stuck on Basketball Reference. Because you're seeing it right in front of you. I don't know what more proof you need to understand that Mitch is valuable. I'm not saying he's great, terrific, but he's definitely one of the Knicks' more valuable players. He's a good player. He's a good, nice center. I wouldn't mind, if the Knicks had a center who could average a double-double for a change. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you Mitch is completely useless, because I see the difference with him and without him. The Hawks dropped 139 points. The Raptors go and drop 125 points. And we talked about the drop-down defense the other night versus Atlanta. Last night, similar things. When the Knicks have Mitch, they can at least afford, at least more often, to press up on perimeter shooters because they know they've got that last line of defense down there. But now, without Mitchell Robinson in there, we've got guys overcommitting on the drive even more. Even more than we usually do when he's in there. And that hurt us yesterday. Toronto knocked down 15 triples. They shot 44% from the arc. You had Brunson cheating so far off of Trent Jr., who scored 24 points early on in this game. Van Vliet scores, I think, 28. Randle wandering in the paint again, helping off Barnes. Now, I know Barnes can't shoot well, but still, you had other guys like Grimes. He's been struggling defensively without Mitch. He usually has a good chemistry in the pick and roll defensively with Mitch. You could see he's not been the same. We still play the drop coverage. We still dropped back on those pick and rolls. Thibs he's not adjusting to any of this, which makes it frustrating. It's just not working with Jericho Sims and Isaiah Hartenstein. It's not the same. Mitch can help you with that drop coverage, but Sims is better above the free throw line drop than he is when he drops down below it towards the rim, or he's just better at, defending. He's a good defender, but Mitch, while they're similar in archetypes, Mitch has the instincts, the smarts, but also the length to be able to swat shots on the outside and inside much better than Sims can. He's a better shot blocker. You also have the Knicks lose the second chance points battle, 26-16. Toronto also had 42 points in the paint, which tied the Knicks, but that number doesn't include the 10 more free throws they converted. And some of those shots off those offensive rebounds were just flat-out misses, too. So it could have been a lot worse, and the numbers are not 100% telling. The Knicks allowed 17 offensive rebounds. 17. I mean, there were times where Hartenstein was down there with Obi, with Deuce, with Randle, RJ. He was a culprit because he was always down there, and the Knicks were just outnumbering the Raptors down low, but still on some of those possessions, they still somehow lost the board because they were either getting outboxed or out-hustled. They don't box out, man. They're not aggressive. They don't go up, jump, and pursue the board like they should sometimes. In the fourth quarter, the Knicks lost the rebound game 15-8. They lost the offensive glass 7-1 in the fourth. That's pathetic. Chris Boucher, is that his name? I don't know how to fucking pronounce the kid's name, but he was a big culprit last night, throughout the night, and in the fourth quarter, especially on the offensive glass. Barnes in the fourth quarter had his moments there. Hernan Gomez, Siakam, had a huge third quarter on the offensive glass. Precious Achiuwa throughout the game. The Knicks were just letting this guy hand out extra offensive possessions for Toronto. They got to get more rebounds. The Knicks bench, by the way, has zero rebounding depth. We want to talk up Obi like he's some star. He gives you nothing on the glass. Hartenstein we know is a zero. And then it's guards. It's guards. Jericho starts now. So now your bench has no rebounding. It's like when Quickly started, when RJ and Obi were hurt, the bench had no scoring. So to me, this whole thing, it's just coming down to depth more than it is coaching. We don't have the depth. And what the heck are we going to do without Mitch? I've heard Mo Bamba, but at what cost? I've heard Crowder, Ibaka, Grayson Allen, who's not a big man. I don't know. It's just pretty gross to me, all these names I'm hearing. Do we pivot to small ball with Obi and Randle? But, Thibodeau's never really shown the flexibility to play small ball throughout a game often. And that's not going to help with your rim protection. Sure as shit won't. But do you just double down and you go all offense? I don't know what they do. I do kind of. And we'll get to that. And I do want to talk about Obi Toppin. Because the whole playing time thing last night was interesting, to say the least. So Thibs, he takes heat every loss from the irrational cesspool they call Twitter, right? He's always going to take heat. But last night, he took heat for not playing role player Obi Toppin more minutes. I get it, though. So you have the Knicks climb back and make it a game late third quarter, and then fall flat in the majority of the fourth quarter. Right? In the third quarter, the starters were out there playing the entire period. Right? Randle, Grimes, Brunson. While Obi sat the entirety of it. And then he receives 3 bullshit minutes in the early fourth quarter. So I understand it, especially with him going. Right? Every Knick early fourth quarter were struggling hard. I don't want to dive too much into it because it's a repetitive topic we talk about with playing time. But yeah, I definitely thought he should have been out there and shouldn't have been pulled with 8-9 minutes left. A few minutes after he throws down a transition dunk. The game was tied 88-88 with 10 minutes left. You had the entire bench out there plus R.J. Barrett. We get to the 8-9 minute mark, and eventually from there, in the next few minutes, few seconds, Brunson checks in for Deuce McBride. Jericho checks in for Hartenstein, and then Randle checks in for Obi Toppin. So the starters come back in. By this point, the game was getting out of hand. And instead of 88-88, it's 99-88 Toronto. So Knicks fans are upset that Obi had, Thibs had a very quick hook on Obi in the fourth quarter, and also that he didn't play at all in the third quarter after being so hot in the first half. And I get it. I thought maybe you keep him in with Randle in that fourth quarter when the subs were made, right? You just check Randle in and you have Sims sit out. Or you have Obi come in for Julius for some third quarter minutes at the end there so he's not really out of rhythm and he's in a little bit of a rhythm entering that fourth. But at the end of the day, though, you're playing Toronto, who's playing small. So why not match it, right? You could have threw Obi on Barnes. You could have threw Randle onto Siakam. That may have been the smartest route to go. And Thibodeau just did not do it. He stuck to his roots, and he was stubborn, and he just stuck with his template rotation. Randle stays in to help on the glass. That's great. But Obi could have checked in as well, right next to him with the 4. You needed offense, floor spacing, shooting. You needed movement. All those things can help break a zone. The Raptors were zoning hard, and we couldn't break it early on fourth. So I didn't understand it, It's a game where Obi Toppin has 14 points in 11 minutes. He's finally hot. He finally gets into rhythm for the first time since his return. But still, he gets no reward. He gets, one of the shortest leashes he's had, actually, despite having a productive game. He's getting the Cam treatment now. Basically, he may as well have. I don't understand. I don't know. It's so weird the way he just doesn't play certain players. And those players are pretty effective. Now, people were also complaining that Cam Reddish should have been in this game. I was reading, Twitter, which, again, you got to take that with a grain of salt. But, Cam's not going to play. We know that. He's not even on the Knicks. It was Grimes who should have been in there over Evan in the fourth quarter, right? You needed the defense. And you have Fournier's garbage self, who's been absolutely dreadful anytime he's gotten an opportunity with the Knicks this year. By the way, he gets 21 minutes last night. He was getting cooked. R.J. Barrett was getting cooked out there by Trent. And Grimes, once again, plays the entire third, and you get nothing from him in the fourth. I don't know. It's weird. I understand the frustration. I'm not going to say the Knicks at 25 and 23 should fire Tom Thibodeau, because that makes very little sense. But I understand why people are upset with him. And again, I've said before, I don't even think that Tom Thibodeau is the long-term coach here. He's just helping us get back on track with, which I think he's done an adequate job of. But yeah, that's this is who we are, guys. This, like, a few weeks from now, it'll be the trade deadline. And first off, I gotta say, I apologize for living too much in the day-to-day. It's funny because we were joking about that last episode. But I think, given who we are right now, where we are as a franchise, I don't know that you make any large deal unless it's for a superstar. Because we've talked about Kuzma, Clarkson before on the show. I don't know, because that might take away some of what you need for a star. If you can swing a deal that involves only Cam, D Rose, or Fournier, whatever that gets you, sure. Something minimal. But if we're talking about a deal that is significant enough to where we have to move top assets and picks, but still not significant enough for a star caliber guy, then no thank you. You know what I mean? Like, I think what you do is you continue saving those assets for that star player that you desperately need. So I'm not sacrificing long-term for short-term bullshit just to get us a game or two further in the playoffs. But yeah, if a guy like Bradley Beal becomes available, I think I am in on that. I do worry about his empty stats. He's never been on winning teams. I really like SGA. I don't think he's going anywhere. But I would say wait until one of those superstars become available, because that always happens every year, every offseason, every season. There's always at least one guy who wants out. Always. So when it comes to Kuzma and all those good players, very good players, I retract a little bit what I said. Just because I think those are exactly the types of guys that, will they get us maybe around further? Maybe. But it's not anything that will make us closer, significantly closer to making this title run. They're not star players, and they're going to cost a lot. So you may as well hang on to your assets and save that. Here's the tricky part with that first part. It's going to be very difficult to move some of these contracts because neither D Rose, Cam Reddish, or Evan Fournier, obviously, are on like cheap veteran deals where the money's minimal. Rose has 2 years left on his $44 million deal, club option for the final year. Cam is owed $6 million this year, but he is a free agent in the offseason, so that's a tough sell. I believe he is. And then Fournier is obviously on that giant $73 million deal with 2 years left on it, club option for the final year. So you're probably going to have to get a third team involved if you want to move Fournier. But yeah, all in all, I'm staying pat. I am just riding this out. And I keep saying this every episode, but I expected the Knicks to be average when they had 0 games played next to their name this season. And right now, 48 games into their season with 34 left, they are exactly that. And until they get their star, they will make no legitimate progress at all, but only incremental, small, marginal progress. On TNT, I think it was a week or so ago, Barkley was saying, and he wasn't wrong. It triggered some people. It triggered me, but, because they were following this whole LOL Knicks shtick. But what he was saying was right. The Knicks are a fun little team, something like that, and they need a star. That's basically, in a vacuum, what he was saying. The whole Wilt, LeBron, Kareem thing was obviously ridiculous, but they need a star, man. And until they get a superstar, they're just going to continue to be this team that has their ups and downs and will never truly make that next step. So I'm not, focusing on head coach so much as everybody else. I'm just focusing on talent. I think we need talent. Okay. Real quick before we wrap this one up, I like how I said it'll be a quick episode, and we end up going 45 minutes. Let's give out a quick reward. A Bing Bong ball goes to Randle among the starters.
Bing bang.
Yeah, he played, I guess, good. 23 points. He had 19 boards, 8 assists, near triple-double, 8 out of 14 shooting. He was efficient. He was another, an animal on the glass again. He's beasting down there. I didn't love the defense. The turnovers in the first quarter, we talked about that being absolutely diabolical, and he continues to miss free throws. Somehow he always misses free throws. At least 3 every game, it feels like. He was 5 for 8, I think. But since we have to hand out one every game, I guess I'll give it to Randle. And then off the bench, I'm going to give the award to, obviously, Obi Toppin. I think Obi was good. 14 points, 5 of 7 shooting, 4 of 5 from 3. Huge first half from the three-point line. But again, it's unfortunate that he didn't play in the second half. Just those 3 minutes and 10 seconds. But yeah, we talked about that enough. And that is really it, guys. That's it. This is where the Knicks are. Basically, at the end of the day, the Knicks do not have a star and will not get anywhere legitimate without one. Until then, enjoy purgatory with the rest of us all. Right? The Cavs are next. Let's wrap it up with our question of the day when we get back. Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. Welcome back to the show, episode 469 of the podcast. Welcome. Hope you're enjoying, I should say, BD4. So let's wrap this up with our question of the day, and that'll be that. All right. So, our NYY-NYK-MMA trivia question of the day for episode 469 here is: Marcus Morris led the 2019-2020 Knicks in points per game. Name the rest of the top 5 scorers on that team in no particular order. All right, Marcus Morris led the 2019-2020 Knicks in points per game. Name the rest of the top 5 scorers on that team in no particular order. All right, one last time. Marcus Morris led the 2019-2020 Knicks in points per game. Name the rest of the top 5 scorers on that team in no particular order. And in no order, but also when I say the remaining top 5 scorers, by points per game, I mean. Because Morris ended up getting traded. so we didn't leave the Knicks in total points. But, yeah, that's it. I appreciate it, everybody. And I will see you in the next episode, 470. I'm going to try to get that MMA episode out this week, too. So, look forward to that. It was a great card. Very good card. All right, later. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.